You have to plan it like a vacation.
No, I can't. I mean, during the annual election period, that's when I make all.
We have them available. I'll go see what we.
And that's where
Can I have a cookie for anybody that doesn't show?
Yeah, we'll just rob all the boxes, right? I think that's fair.
This will be my 5th year.
If they don't come to the meeting, they don't get the cookie.
Share the space and the time, and their strength for the time.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Be our period.
I've been busy.
Shit.
Arma's not long enough.
All right. Okay, call the meeting to order. Start with roll call.
Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Norwood,
Here.
Commissioner Zell,
He will not be here tonight.
Is this yours?
Commissioner Waddell. Same.
Yeah, I think he was going to be out of town too, right?
Oh, that's right, yes,
Yep.
yes.
Commissioner Stallings.
Here.
Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Mayor Pinkerton.
Here. Okay, thank you. Item number 2, at the commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the rescheduled regular session agenda on July 21st, 2020. Do you have any comments? Oh, okay. Item number 3, study items. Item number 3.1, Vance Development Authority quarterly update by Mike Cooper. Mr. Cooper?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Good to see all of you. I just thought I'd give you a quick update since I was here for Vance Development Authority. Kind of let you know some of the activities we have going on. First, and I'll kind of talk about what I did today, which the best thing I did today was meet your new wing commander. I had been to his change of command with you, George, but hadn't sat down and talked to him about priorities. But I'll kind of go through what we talked about and then talk about the state and federal level and how the community, how we're all rolling in to do the things that we do. When we met with our new wing commander, again, as we always say, we all say it all the time, we always get the next greatest wing commander, so we're glad that you're here. So we talked about the different priorities because it's time, this time of year, we always set priorities on what the community, state, and congressional delegation kind of focus on, particularly as it relates to the, as it pertains to the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission. So as the previous wing commander and to him, the issue, the number one priority, we had a couple, but the number one priority seemed to be this ramp, replacing the ramp out at Woodring Airport, which would allow for their T-38s. Once they start replacing the middle runway at Vance, they can utilize that. So we discussed that. The other issue was maybe upgrading the radar at Woodring. That's still kind of in the mix, and we'll have further discussion. We didn't talk about that today, but we'll talk about that later. So what I wanted to update you on this last session, you know, we pushed to get, and we finally got we knew we were going to take a cut from the military planning commissioners, weren't sure how much. Well, finally, we now know the number, and so working with the governor's committee on the budget, we took a 4% cut, so the overall budget amount's $822,000. Our piece of that this year for 2020 through 2021 May is $137,000. So whatever priority that we have, we'll make sure that we're ready to start, go ahead and apply for that. The money should be available in there starting August, September timeframe, September for sure. So we'll try to make sure we have our priority set so we can go ahead and access those dollars. As you know, we just got payment for a 3-year participation for the new terminal, and it was approximately $140,000. So we had 3 pieces for Military Planning Commission to help fund that, your terminal. So that was a good project. The other thing I wanted to update you on, we continually have wind turbine development, which is good for Northwest Oklahoma, but we still want to protect our most important, number one, critical military value asset, which is aerospace. So we talked a little bit about that, the process going forward, how that works. Once they notice the Corporation Commission, then they notice me, and we contact them, and then I work those issues from the state perspective, not theirs, but with the Department of Defense Clearinghouse on the federal level. So we talked about that. I know a lot of you were asked a lot of questions on the Skelton Creek project, was kind of north and west. They had a lot of mitigation, a lot of change, whether it's to radar, weather radar, or otherwise. So, but there were finally agreements. So there was a lot of work on that. Took them a lot of time, but I think, you know, they feel like they got the best of what that, so that project can move forward. Again, that was House Bill 2118 that we were able to get passed at the state level. The other bill that we did about a year and a half ago was House Bill 749 that was dealing with pooled finance, part of the Quality Jobs Act, I guess. But the pooled financing allows you to utilize state income tax dollars for business and industry in the community that would have an impact for economic development. So you could utilize those dollars, help you incent business to either move here or to expand in place here. We changed that a little bit. We added to where that it wasn't just for, you know, local industry or industry that you would bring here, but also Department of Defense, military, Vance, for example. So we got that passed, but the important thing, as you know, is the dorm project. The way that would work, if you remember, is if the project was approximately $10 million, we would leverage dollars from the businesses that do work out at Vance and, you know, leverage those dollars, set those aside in a pool of money to accrue over a year or two, whatever year, how many ever years you decide, depending on how much money you want to increase, what the project is. We know what our project is, but then once you do that and decide the term, how much money you can make, then when we take a proposal to the Air Force and Department of Defense to be a part of this, you know, agreement to allow us to build the dorm out there, then what we would do, say if the project was $10 million, but we were able to leverage $3 million from the state, for example, then you would see that they, you know, their portion of that would be the remaining piece. So it's a good way to get something done that they need, and does what we always want to do, improve quality of life, but also help them increase mission capability, reduce costs. So those are two pieces of legislation that are certainly helping us. The priority project, as you know, many of you kind of remember, and we talked about it this morning, was that south ramp at Woodring. Again, the whole idea of that is he's got a middle runway that they need to tear out at Vance. It's about a $50 million project. You spend $50 million in Enid, that's a good thing. This is a plus for both sides. In other words, allows them access to utilize that for the T-38s as they do work outside of that runway usage, the middle runway. But for your airport, they're going to buy a lot of gas. So that's how they make money out there. So that's good. On the federal level, of course, Scott put together a grant request for the Defense Community Infrastructure Programs, $50 million total that the Secretary of Defense has available. Their project was for $10 million, and it's to assist with your Call Lake project. And we don't know if we get selected, you may get $10 million, but you also might get something else, you know. So whatever it is that we get would be certainly helpful to your project. So we'll continue to follow that. I was there the last week of June. Once they had the project put together, I went and talked to the OEA director. Of course, made sure Inhofe was briefed totally, all of our congressional delegation briefed on that, and then made sure that there were contacts made to the Secretary of Defense and OEA that this was the priority project for Oklahoma. So, and that's all been done. So that's good. A couple other things in the NDAA, the Defense Authorization Bill that we put in, two things. One, OEA, the Office of Economic Adjustment, each year it's kind of subject to being taken out because it's money and it's not you know, the Defense Department, they set that up for a certain reason, say 25, 30 years ago, but every time money's tight, that's the first group they looked to cut. So Inhofe added language to make that a more permanent thing. They changed the name of it, more aligned with defense communities. So the name changed, but it'll be an entity that will be funded, and they'll have to give reports to Congress annually. And so that makes it a much safer, because as you all know, we've accessed a lot of money, whether it's JLUIS, they'll be the one that would administer DSIP or any of the other projects that help, communities and states work together with not just Vance, but all of our other installations. They're the entity that does it. They're the liaison between DOD and the communities and states. So that's done. DSIP, we were able to one side has 50 million, the other side has 100 million. So when it goes to conference after the August break, it'll fall somewhere in between there. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere, north of 50 million, like closer to 75. But we got that in there. So it is a 10-year program, but there's not assurances, as you know. So every year we have to go wrestle for those dollars. So we've done that, and we spoke at Vance today and talked about, the MilCon project that's a priority for us out there is that squad ops facility. I think they mentioned that it was like number 3 in AETC, should be in the FIDEP, but then that's out. And Rob, I know you know, and so does the mayor, how we work those projects. As long as we have it in the FIDEP, then we try to go get it, somehow get it funded. So we're moving forward on that, so we appreciate that, Colonel, because that'll help us and the delegation a lot to move that forward. So that's kind of the overall brief. Things that we got going on, got a lot on our plate, so I'll answer any questions if you got them.
Okay. Say anything?
All right.
On the dorm, there was an approval by the Office of Management and Budget.
Yeah.
Has that happened yet?
It has not, but that is the key issue. And again, that's to get the waiver for scoring on that. And we're asking for the waiver like they did for privatized housing. And so this is a dorm, that's a little different than housing, but we're trying to, what Inhofe and others are trying to do is say, well, okay, let's let this be the pilot project. Let's let this be the test to see if it works. Of course, we'd be under a lot of scrutiny because all the issues with housing that they've had currently. So whatever, if we get to do this, then there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on making sure that it's done right in a quality manner. I don't think that we wouldn't do that, but okay. All right.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Good report.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Okay. Item number 3.2, discuss city council members receiving compensation. I'm going to have a couple of speakers come up. First, I'd like to call forward the citizen that brought this idea to the board to start with. So, Mr. Mitchell, would you like to give us a little background on why you brought this idea forward?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
As you all know, I'm Milton Mitchell, and I live at 3621 Antelope Drive here in Enid, Oklahoma. I brought this situation up because we have been moving in this direction the way we have been, or the way it's currently set up, for the past 70 years. I think it was, we went to not paying the commissioners to bringing in a city manager in, I think it was 1947. So it's been a little over 70 years since that went into effect. And I really believe it's time for us to move into the 21st century. And one of the reasons I think about this is, strongly about it, is because individuals serving on as mayor or as commissioners, even though you don't receive a commission at the present time, any kind of salary or anything at this particular time, I think it really kind of limits us on the type of individuals that we may be able to put into these positions. And I think it's rather costly because it is very time consuming. back in 1947, it probably didn't take near as much time, as it does today. And I think it is so absolutely time-consuming that it would merit a change at this particular time. I think I didn't get a chance to study this as much as I would have liked to. I really just got the information less than an hour ago, and even though we have discussed it some, but I looked at it and saw where in the city of, I think the city that really is more comparable towards us than any is Midwest City. They have about 54,000 people, and their mayor currently gets $4,800, and their city commissioners $3,600. Personally, I would love to see it a lot more than that. That's just my personal thought about it, what I would like to see. And some people have questioned me and said, well, you're just doing that because you're going to run for office. No, I'm not. So this is not self-serving. I'm not planning to run for mayor or to be a part of the city commission. I am currently serving on a commission here in the city, and it is a non-paid position. I'm not looking to be paid for it. I do appreciate the opportunity to serve on the Civil Service Commission, as you appointed me a couple of weeks ago. And I do appreciate being able to serve on that particular commission and to serve my city and my community in hopes of recruiting as far as police officers and like that is concerned.
Right.
So I do understand giving of time, but I am retired. So, it makes it a little easier for me being a retired businessman, being able to give that kind of time and put that kind of effort in. And I'm finding out how much time it really takes. And I've only been on for 2 weeks, and man, it is it's pretty demanding. And people are calling and asking, well, what are you going to do about this or this or this? And I said, well, wait a minute, I've just been on there for 2 weeks. They said, well, don't you know? And no, I don't. I am investigating, I am learning. At least give me a month, to come back and maybe make a decent report to you. But Edmond, like I say, Midwest City is pretty close to us as far as size is concerned. And so I think it's a good starting point. It's not something that has to be real difficult to do. In fact, you can address the ordinance, and you can amend an ordinance that you already have in place. And I believe it's section 1-8-4. And you as the commission or as the mayor, you can simply change that ordinance. And of course, it still has to go before a vote of the people. That would come up like as I look at my notes sometime in January, that would come up as a vote before the people. And I think that would give me a little more of a chance to talk this up in our community. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from the community. It's like Dr. Costed, he's a veterinarian here in town. He says, man, that's way long overdue. And there's many others, who are a part of our community who really are in favor of having this ordinance to change and giving compensation to our mayor and our city commissioners. And it's not something that I think would be hard to do if some of the commissioners, you may be somewhat opposed to it, because you say, well, I came in as a volunteer and I'd like for it to continue as a volunteer position. You would still be able to do just that, even though you would be receiving compensation. You can take your compensation and donate it right into the city of Enid or some other charitable organization here in the community. But at the same time, I think it would just broaden our ability to be able to attract people to come in, because if you have to put in as many hours as you as commissioners and as our mayor, as many hours as you have to commit to the work that you do as commissioners and as mayor, then individuals who are not retired and who may not be in that position to be able to just totally volunteer their time, then at least this would give them an opportunity to receive some type of compensation and allow them to also serve our community in these particular capacities. And I think that would happen. I'm encouraging it. I want you to duly please give it consideration. And any other information, we'll be glad to get it to you, in a timely manner for you to look over and to discuss. And let's move forward, because that's one of the things that we're trying to do is move forward and improve the community in as many ways as possible. And I think this is one of those ways.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For the benefit of those that don't know, there's different kinds of city government set up. We have what's called a strong city manager form of government, and that's why the commissioners and the mayor are not paid. The paid staff is the city manager. And so he takes care of day-to-day management of all the departments within the city. All the employees in the city work for him. The only employees from the city that work for the council are the city manager, city attorney, and the 2 judges that are hired by the city. Other than that, all the employees work for or fall under the city manager. So,
Except for
except for,
police and fire
Oh.
officers.
right, police and fire, their chiefs run their areas. So that's a little bit different. But anyway, so the role of the mayor and the commissioners in this form of government is to provide all the rules that the city is run by. So we're the ones that approve all the ordinances, we're the ones that do the proclamations, we're the ones that do all of the, make up all the rules that run city government, but day-to-day management of city government is done in our city under the city manager. So that's the reason that there was no compensation earlier. Some cities that are set up like us do have compensation, as Mr. Milton pointed out. Mr. Mitchell,
Just don't call me the devil.
I would not do that. Okay. So anyway, that's just a little bit of background. The legal process to do that, since it's the way our charter was written in 1947, it would take, there's certain rules that you have to abide by to be able to make that happen. So Carol, can you give us a quick update on what that would be?
Yes, it indicates that you all serve without compensation in the charter. To change anything in the charter, it takes a vote of the people. There are 2, if you all are interested in doing this, and you would not be doing it for yourselves because of the Oklahoma Constitution. You would be doing it for the people that come after. If you want to do that, you just call an election and you put a question before the voters. We've done it many times before. There's 2 basic approaches. You could have a question that simply says, should the charter be amended to allow mayors and city commissioners to receive compensation for service? And then if that passes, if it's a yes, then we would take the sentence out of the charter that says no compensation, and then a ordinance would set the rate. You could, if you want to go that approach and you wanted to call the election, you could also pass the ordinance with an effective date after the election, and only if the measure passed, so that you would be able to tell the public what the salaries would be. The second method would be to take the sentence out and put in a sentence that says annual compensation for the mayor would be, annual compensation for the city commissioners each would be. That part of it is easy. It's deciding whether or not you want to do this yourself. If you do, that part is also easy. You just pass it. If you don't do that and the citizenry decided they wanted to do it, then they have to do it through an initiative petition, which means either well, traditionally, you go to places where a whole bunch of people are, and you have them sign, and they get enough signatures, and it's based on how many people voted in the last election for mayor.
What is the requirement if there's a charter change? Is it simple majority?
Yes. Yes.
And Carol, when could this be done if we decided this is something that we were interested in and we wanted to do this for individuals that might want to run for our city council in the future? When could we do this?
The first time would be January. There are, whenever you have federal elections, there's a 75-day period in order to get it on the ballot. And we would have had to approve it tonight, and even that would be tight. So the next election that we could call is January. I think it's January 12th. It's that Tuesday. If we were 200,000, we could do it in December. But I don't think.
Census is not in yet, but I don't think.
Yeah, right. So the first is January, and there's some intricacies about when different fact scenarios. You could also not call an election for January and do it in February at the time that you would be electing new officers. Now, if you did that, and it passed, it would not apply to those new candidates because it is the date of election. It would have had to change before the date of election. And now, and it gets very complicated. I don't want to get into the weeds, but for example, if one race had multiple candidates, and so the candidate didn't, and so there was a runoff in April. So that happens. You know, if you've got 4 candidates, the top 2 would go to April. Then you would have the interesting situation, if it passed in February, then the interesting situation would be the person who won the April runoff would be able to receive the compensation, but the ones that got elected the night of the election that it passed would not. There's other intricacies, like what if you don't have a candidate? You know, if you put your name in and you're the only one. I have a feeling that I don't know for sure when the determination is made. It might be at the election in February, or it might be at the end of the filing period. I haven't run that one down yet. But January would be available if you so choose.
How much would it cost the city to run that kind of election? Do you have any idea what the cost would be?
15 years ago, it was about $14,000.
Okay. And it would be an election of all people in the city limits of Enid?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I can see this. Looking on
Well,
the
all
positive,
registered voters.
Yeah.
on the positive side of this, I can see where it would help to be able to allow individuals that are working and a lot younger to be able to run for a position, because some type of compensation would truly help them. For me personally, working for myself, I can make a lot of the meetings that people don't know that we have. Those that are retired can do the same thing, but people that have families and they're a lot younger and they're working on the job, if we were to do this and have some type of compensation, that might be able to help them to be able to be in these positions. So I think that's the positive side of it. I did have a question, though. Mayor, you had stated that some cities do this and some don't do it. and you had stated the responsibilities that the city manager runs, if we were to do this, we wouldn't have those type of responsibilities that he has, right?
No,
No.
Okay, all right.
no, our role would not change.
Because I just wanted to make sure that the public that is watching this would
Right.
fully understand that,
No, no.
you know, it won't change for us.
We're not changing the form of government, that's not the issue. We're just trying to compensate those that are currently volunteers. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. I agree. It might open the opportunity for people that just simply cannot afford to serve and would like to serve. It'll open the door for them to be able to do that, I think. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough money to be able to take an hour off of work here or there to help out with whatever they have to do with the obligations of office. Under that system, our expenses are reimbursed. Any expenses we have that are related to city business, I presume that would still be the same. So that doesn't change. So it's just providing a
Stipend.
stipend for service. Yep.
And you know, I was excited about it because a young man that I've just met, he told me, he said, "I've been watching you." And I was like, "Whoa, really?" And he said, "I just graduated from UCO." And he said, "I want you to know I live in your ward and I plan on running, you know, once your term is up." And I was like, I mean, that really made me excited because I know that someone's really interested. And he's only in his 20s. You know, I was like, man, that would be great, you know, that he would, I mean, to even have an interest in city government and doing something for the city of Enid. Because a lot of times they feel like, you know, no one's hearing us, no one's interested in what we're interested in. There's things that we want to do here, and I get that. So, you know, by them getting in these positions, those type of changes can happen. And, you know, it just made me feel good that at 23, 24 years old, he's that excited about it. I'm like, hey, man, you know, keep watching me. You know, let's go out, let's do things together, and you can learn more, and I'm willing to share anything I can share with you. And, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for our future, you know, for the young people that are coming up behind us.
Well, it sounds to me like most people are in agreement with the idea. So January, are you guys thinking, trying to set it up for that? I mean, we're not voting here. I'm just trying to get a sense for it. And I don't know if we have to bring this to a vote in a regular
I think
meeting.
it'd come back with an action item, right, Carol?
Yes.
Okay.
At your meeting as soon
Yeah,
as you
and we
would
need
like.
to do that no later than October 28th, if we want it for the January meeting.
Yeah, okay.
And our second meeting in October 20th.
Okay. I'd also like to do something on a Facebook broadcast that goes out so that we can get the people's feeling before we actually go out with this. I want to find out.
Like a survey, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, a survey or, you know, just if you feel like it, please, if you're in favor or not, please contact the following or fill out, you know, something and send it in, get some feedback. I don't like doing things in a vacuum. It's easy to, you know, go with the 10 people in the room when there's probably 1,000 outside that may have a different idea. So I want to make sure that we're catching the rest of the community as well.
I think the paper is running a survey right now.
Are they? Good. All right. Excellent. Okay, then we'll hold that broadcast until we get the survey, because that might give us some information. Yeah. Okay. Good. All righty. Thank you. Item number, study item 3.3, discuss accessory building ordinance. Scott, you up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, it was, I believe, a meeting in March. You had a few different proposals brought forward to you about accessory buildings. You had one proposal that had property or building size restrictions on about 5 different size lots that was very conservative, and you had another plan that had restrictions on 2 sizes of lots that was much more lenient. And I was tasked to come up with a marriage of those 2 plans and a compromise of, so I've got an ordinance proposal for you tonight that would limit the maximum size to 3 sizes of lots. and the maximum sizes are somewhere in the middle. And so that's what I'm going to be talking with you tonight about. Some of the things that other cities are doing, I just wanted to throw this in here to give you an example of what a few other people are doing. Oklahoma City and Broken Arrow, they just have a maximum size of 1,000 square feet, and you'll see many others use a percentage method. This is done out of the desire to not have a large portion of the backyard covered with building, and also a desire to mitigate possible stormwater issues for neighbors. And so that's why a lot of communities have a percentage of square foot available for buildings based on the rear lot square footage. So Stillwater, Newcastle, and Moore, you'll see they do around a 20% of your rear yard you could have as a building size. Edmond does it based on resident square foot, and they have some different things that you can read about there. Our current ordinance for lots up to a quarter acre is 650 square feet. So at my house where I live, I've got about 2,200 square feet in my backyard. According to some of the other 20% ordinances, I could have up to about a 450 square foot building. Our current ordinance allows a 650 square foot building, and what we're proposing would allow these lots up to 1/4 acre to have up to 900 square feet of accessory buildings, which the reason we came up with 900 square feet, one of the proposals that you heard in March, you heard the term standard building sizes, and that's really a smart thing to do. So that's one of the reasons we came up with 900 square feet. 30 by 30 is a fairly common size. Another common size people like for these types is a 2-car garage, which would be like a 24 feet wide, 30 feet deep type building. So that would allow for both of those things in lots up to a 1/4 acre. And I will say that almost every residential lot in Enid, most of them fall into this category unless they have a larger lot they've purchased too, or they happen to live in a neighborhood that has much bigger lots. There are quite a few neighborhoods that have more than this, and there are some, as you're aware, that have acreages. So this is the first property size with a maximum. The next would be lot sizes between a 1/4 acre and up to a 1/2 acre. Our current ordinance allows 720 square feet, and we would allow up to 1,200 square feet. Again, this is to try to accommodate some standard building sizes. The picture is just a picture of what a 30 by 40 building could look like, and this would be in areas a 1/4 to 1/2 acre in size. The last lot size would be 1/2 acre to 1 acre, and our current ordinance allows up to 800 square feet of accessory buildings, and we would allow 1,600 square feet, which would accommodate a 40 by 40 building. Above 1 acre, you would still need to comply with code for setbacks and any type of electrical work, anything like that. You still have to get all those permits, you still have to do all of those things, but as far as how much we would restrict in size, if there are any lot over 1 acre, there will be no restriction there. So this is what we came up with for maximum sizes, and there are a few other changes to the ordinance, just some language. We would exempt this from mobile home parks and multifamily R7. Most of those are already an acre or bigger anyway, but it would exempt them from that. And then if you do have a non-conforming building, we would allow you to repair that if it was built before 2015. Another issue that we've had is, let's say that there was a house and a really nice shed that was built, and the house was torn down, and now you buy the lot and there's a nice building on it. Our ordinance says that there has to be a primary structure on there, and we would make an exemption to that to say if there's an existing building, it can still be used if the primary is removed. Now, you still have to build your primary residence before you can build an accessory building, but in the case of it going back the other way, it would still be legal for you to use that building. And the total square footage for all accessory buildings cannot exceed the maximum square footage. So if it's the case of 900 square feet, if you've got 3 buildings, the total of the 3 cannot add up to more than the 900. And there is a height restriction on these of 25 feet, And this next one would just ensure that the overhead door height doesn't exceed 15 feet. And most highway bridges are set at 15 feet because there aren't vehicles that are taller than that unless they have special things. So any mobile home should be able to fit with a 15-foot door. Those are some of the changes that we have proposed. Again, it is trying to put these two plans together into something that you guys, commissioners, that you might approve of, and you certainly can be welcome to give us feedback if you don't like those numbers. But here's just a quick slide on some variances that the Adjustment Board has seen in the last 5 years or so. There have been 14 variances submitted for accessory buildings. And under this new ordinance, 8 of them would not even have to go to the Adjustment Board. They would already have been passed. But it would still leave 6 people that would have to go in front of a board if they wanted that size building to be approved. And there was one person that was not approved under the Adjustment Board, and this new ordinance would really not accommodate the building size that this individual would want. But this is the proposal that we have for you, and so if there are any questions, we'd love to entertain them.
I have a question. At our town hall meeting, there was a gentleman that spoke and was concerned, and I assume he's the one you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
He would not be, this wouldn't help him. Is there a path forward for him at all? Because we told him that we would have this meeting and talk about it.
And I did reach out to that individual and invite him to the hearing last night for MAPC, and I invited him to the meeting tonight. And he very well may be listening. He is working, unable to be off. His current lot is 0.17 acres, and so he would be eligible for the 900 square foot under this ordinance. If he combined both of his lots, he would be eligible he would have 0.33 acres, and under this ordinance, he could build a 1,200 square foot building. And he, I believe, has poured a 40 by 40 foot pad on his property, which would be for 1,600 square feet. So he may be able to build a 30 by 40 on that lot, but he would not be able to accomplish his plans per this ordinance. So I do not know if we want to have an ordinance that meets all of everyone's plans, but if there is a number other than 1,600 square feet or 1,200 square feet that you would find acceptable, then we would entertain any feedback that you have.
There's one issue that I caught today. Originally, 1116.2, the exemption said, this chapter does not apply to the R6, R7, and the lots over 1 acre. And the chapter also includes residential carports. So I've adjusted it so that it doesn't change anything. I think the intention was that we were just saying all you have to do is get your permit and follow the codes if they are applicable, A and B, and that was clear in this. It just said this chapter, and I don't think if we left it this chapter rather than section 1116-3, it would exempt the carport regulations for lots over 1 acre. And we never talked about that. So I have 2 versions. One that would still apply, that would exempt all carport regulations for lots that are over 1 acre, and then one that just narrows it down to what everyone has been discussing for a couple months.
So Carol, as I understand you, what you are saying is lots less than 1 acre, carports would be considered a portion of that maximum square foot size for the accessory building. Over 1 acre, they would not be exempted.
No, it doesn't. Carports have nothing to do with this. The problem is that the chapter combines the penultimate section of this chapter, which is not in this ordinance, applies to carports. And when we said this chapter does not apply, so there's a whole section we've not really talked about involving carports, and I did not think it was the intention of the MAPC or anybody that we've been talking about to exempt carports that are on lots over
Right.
1 acre. If that's your intention, no problem, just make it clear.
Okay.
But if you pass the one that will be on your screen at the meeting in a few minutes, it will say only section 1116-3. This is only applying to accessory buildings, not carports. I almost wish I just not told you.
So do we.
I have a concern.
Yes.
With Mr. Mongo's situation. He did go before the variance commission. And no one in the area, in the neighborhood in which he lived, there are other R7, R3 lots that have buildings or these type of structures on them. And somehow they were able to build them. I don't know. But anyway, the variance commission, no one in the neighborhood, when, it was sent out 300 square feet from the area in which he lived, no one in that area contested it. It was not contested by anyone in that neighborhood at all. Not one person contested. I'm saying it over again. Not one person contested him building this structure in his backyard behind a private fence. Not one person contested. But when he went before the variance commission, that board, they said no. Now, what I need to understand is, do we uphold to what we have written in our ordinances? Because normally it's 51% or over, 51% vote against it of the population in that area. If they would have said no, I get it. If 51% of the people that live in that neighborhood would have said no, I totally get that. But not one person responded.
Okay, there's two different things.
That's where I'm confused.
Okay, there's two
I'm
different.
confused.
There's two different procedures. What the 51% is for changes of zoning and protests that come here to this body. And that is for changing zonings or changing certain other, like overlay districts and that sort of thing. The Board of Adjustment has its own statutory, and its state law has their own factors that they follow. We do send out and find out what the neighbors think, but the neighbors being for it or against it is not really part of the factors. The factors for the variance is it a peculiar, and Chris could speak to it, he works with it all the time, but is the lot peculiar? Is there something particularly involved in this piece of property that would make these rules not logical to apply to this piece of property? It's very specific statutory criteria.
To me, that's unfair. Because if an individual has to pay $650 to be heard by a commission of 4 individuals, and that person gets turned down by the variance board, but the populace, the people that we receive income from, don't say anything, isn't there a saying that silence to the rule is consent? They consented to it by not going against it. That's not fair. Because $650, he paid for it. So should he go back to that commission and say, hey, I want to be reheard again now that the ordinances have changed? Can he go back without having to pay another $650? I mean, because to me, it's just a waste of time. There's a lot of bureaucracy in this.
The Board of Adjustment is governed principally by state law, and we don't have control over state law, and he is not able to go back for 6 months. Now, we've been talking about this for quite some time because of the epidemic, so his time period is almost over. But this goes way back close to statehood, and it's state statutes. It is not our code, and we do not have control over it. Of course, we could talk to our elected officials, but this has been around a very long time.
7 months.
No, I
Carol,
mean,
an
the
easier-
state statute.
1907.
Okay. As far as this case, it's been
Yeah.
7 months.
An easier route would be tonight, this is on the agenda too, with the ordinance that Scott explained. That would not solve Mr. Mongol's problem, but the great thing about democracy is the 5 of you can modify it to whatever you want it to be, or if you want it to go away. I know from the perspective, my perspective as a city manager, I think we have done all we can do to gather all the information to give to you, and now we're going to put it in your court when we, so to speak, we're going to put it on, it's on the regular agenda for you to consider. And if you want to make it 1,600, by all means you can, we will enforce that. And I do know what you're saying about when the people say something, but I do know routinely with this body, when there are protests about zoning, more than 50%, routinely, many times, the property gets rezoned. So this body has to make those hard decisions about what those rules are for the community and for rezonings. But in this case, we're talking about the rules, which is the ordinance. You guys completely control that tonight.
Because I'm aware that MAPC made a recommendation last night of what you presented, Scott. And I first want to say, Gerald, Carol, Scott, Mayor, thank you for what you've done. I appreciate, and Chris Bowers, thank you, sir, that you all didn't, just blow this off. I appreciate it. Gerald, me and you've had many conversations about this. And I want you all to know, as viewers out there, there are a lot of people that are waiting to see how we're going to move on this. Because, in fact, what we live off of, tax revenue dollars, it'll start coming in. We start loosening it up a little bit and let people live and stretch out a little bit, it'll start coming in. But if we keep a tight rubber band on everything, we're going to stay in the position that we're in. And we need money right now. We got a water pipeline that we're looking at. We need revenue every which way we can get it. But if I can I get a recommendation from Mr. Chris Bowers, if that's okay, just to see what his recommendation is.
You can get his opinion.
Okay.
The city's recommendation is already before you on the agenda, but I welcome Chris Bauer. Why don't you, if you're here, why don't you make,
I'd just like to hear his
give you his
opinion on what he
opinion,
thinks.
absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. The ordinance in front of you this evening is on Mr. Mongol. So we'll just drill in on that one. He has 2 lots, and each of them are in that quarter acre and under size. And if you pass the ordinance that's been presented to you this evening, he could do 900 square feet on each lot, and they're right next to each other. The proposal that I gave you in March was 900 for a quarter acre, and then doubling that quarter to a half. It's the same percentage, which would be 1,800. So in his case, he's got 2 lots side by side. He could do 900, 900. He could do 1,800 if this ordinance passes this evening. It wouldn't be in one building, it would be in 2. If you allowed 1,800 square feet up to a half acre, then he would be able to do his 1,600 as he wants to, which is a great example. Just because you set a maximum doesn't mean the property owners want to achieve to that level. He only wants to build 1,600. What we looked at citywide, we found 50 properties that had more than 900 square feet that were a quarter acre and less. So my takeaway from that is that people are building, A, what they can afford, and B, what they need. And I think Ronald Goldman is shining example that his 1,600 is what he and his family decided they needed, irresponsible or regardless to what the ordinance said. So on half acres and less to a quarter, we found only 9 properties that exceeded 1,800 square feet. So I think the community is staying within those boundaries without regulations, was my proposal to you then. So if you approve the ordinance, he could build 2 900 square foot structures and comply, and it would actually be 200 square feet more than what he even wants to do. It just would not be in one building. Or you could do, as the city manager suggested, increase that 1,200 that's being proposed to 16, and then he would be fine.
You could
Does that
really
help
do,
you?
you could really do whatever you want.
Gerald, I'll go with your proposal.
The point really is, even if you solve Mr. Mongol's problem, the issue the city will have after you pass whatever you pass is we'll have to enforce it. So the next person may decide they want to build a 2,000 square foot building, and we might only allow 1,800. That's really why we're here. And so when that situation develops, the tool that we have is to send them to Board of Adjustment. You guys appoint the 5 members of the Board of Adjustment, and they're empowered to make those decisions based on 4 criteria that Chris could rattle off for you. To be honest with you, it's rare that anybody could, in my opinion, can legitimately meet that hurdle, but that independent body makes that decision. And most of the time, in fact, in this case on accessory buildings, I think every time they have haven't they approved every variance but one?
That's correct.
And I think there was more to the story. I think that, to be honest, I wasn't at the meeting, but I think that what was allowable currently with the ordinance and what he was trying to do there was a big difference. And I think that Mr. Mongold, much like at the town hall meeting, had many differences with the city. And I think that, yeah, my impression is that it just didn't go well. But again, I wasn't at the meeting, you were, and so you could probably better say how that went. But Board of Adjustment makes that decision independently. And then the city lives with that unless we want to challenge that, which would put us in the difficult position of going to court, challenging one of our own board opinions. And we probably don't want to be in that business very often.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So what I'm hearing is there is a path forward for Mr. Mongol.
Well,
It's 6 months. When you're denied, you have to wait a minimum of 6 months. We heard his case January 14th, so he is eligible to go back.
We pass this ordinance, he will be able to do what he wants to do?
Well, if you pass the ordinance, he would be allowed 1,200. He wants to do 16, so he would have to go back to the board and ask for 400 square feet more. What Gerald was telling you is the ordinance was 650 square feet, and he was asking for 16. So that was a substantial increase, and I believe that's the primary reason the court denied it.
And I'm sorry.
You said there's 2 lots, that he owns 2 lots,
Yes, sir.
adjacent lots.
Side by side.
Okay. Is there a chance he could sell one of the lots? I mean, if we were to allow him to put a structure the size he wants on one lot, could he sell the other lot? And now we have one lot that's got this huge,
No, his plan is to combine both properties. There's actually 2 homes there. He wants to demolish both homes, combine the properties into one tract, and build a new home for him and his wife.
okay.
That's his plan.
And I think he's already started construction. This is part of the problem. We need to encourage people, don't do this until you come down here and talk to these guys, because you can make a mistake. It's costly for you. And maybe we can get him out of this, but he has already, I think he's got some concrete down and some steel.
They have steel up in there.
I know he had concrete. I don't know about the steel.
Yeah, the building, all the frame structure.
There's frame
it's all
structure,
up.
yep.
It's all welded and it's up in the air.
Yeah. Can I throw another caveat out there real quick? By doing this ordinance this way, we're also about to limit what all of our historical homes can do here in town, because those are all, because the time frame they were built, they were detached garages. So they're being penalized because they're going to be charged for that footage. So once they do the garage, the amount of outbuilding in these historical homes, they're going to put a lot of money in these things. which is good for our economy also. So I'm not opposed to raising it to 1,600, if that'll get him out of that. But I think that we need to also exempt any detached garages. That way that lets them, if somebody wants to go in and build a pool house or a cabana or whatever they want to do, they would still have 1,600 feet.
And I like what you said, David, because I saw his plans, and they're going to attach the new home to this structure, this building. They're talking about connecting it to it.
If he connects it, then he won't meet the setback requirements
Okay, well,
of the current pad that he's built.
then he needs to come and talk to you all and get all that straightened out. But I know they're planning on building a $300,000 home in that area. It's going to be really nice, but anyway,
I think the best way to solve this, the way I understand the ordinance in front of you, is if you want to solve his specific problem, you should make it 1,600 square feet or larger. I think that's what I hear. Isn't that correct, Chris? Because otherwise, he combines his two lots, he's still under a half acre, and he'd be limited to
And the
12.
proposed ordinance is 1,200.
Yeah.
And he's at 16. So yes, you're correct.
So you guys probably need to make that decision tonight. Otherwise, Mr. Mongol will be in the difficult position of, if he goes back to Board of Adjustment, he has to get all that stuff again, it will cost him money, and there's no guarantee it's going to be a yes vote. Those folks are independent people you appoint that make their own decisions.
and Chris brought out a very good point the last time we had this meeting back in January, that it's a statement that you had made. I'm trying to get it right. The people kind of governing, you had gave a statistic, it was like 25. Man, I wish I would have remembered that.
We found 50 properties that exceeded 900 square feet citywide on lots that were a quarter acre and less. And my comment is that people are self-regulating. Is that what you, even without an ordinance? So if you took it to 900, you would be capturing 90% of what people want to do, and that's what the ordinance has in it this evening that you're considering on lots of quarter acre and under. That would achieve that.
Okay.
I would just like to just say one more comment. I did collaborate with code and engineering, community development, and the numbers that we came up with are much more lenient than you saw all of the other communities in the first slide. Most of them regulate at 1,000 feet maximum or 20%. This is much more lenient than that already, and I know that engineering and code are already concerned with the numbers that we've proposed, but if you want to make those numbers larger, then that's your agenda. But I just wanted to at least let you aware that there are several departments that are already concerned how lenient that this new policy is. So that's all I have to say.
And I also look at Scott, being real about it, there aren't many buildings being built as far as I know. I watch it as far as structures like this. I mean, if there's only going to be, if you look at it, a few people doing this. I don't believe that they're just going to pop up with big structures everywhere, because you don't have that many people building these type of structures, unattached garages or metal buildings anyway. Not that many that even exceed 650 to 900 square feet. I mean, we just really don't have big numbers in that because of the cost of it. They are affordable, but everyone can't afford that. So I believe it's going to maintain itself.
And just one more reminder too, at my house, I have a very nice 10 by 12 with a concrete, shed. It's a large shed, 120 square feet, wait, is that 1,200 square feet? No, okay, never do math in public. But if you do have an HOA or something to that effect, that you would still have to abide by the rules in your neighborhood. So if your neighborhood says that you have to have a building that looks a certain way or can't be a certain size, then you still have to follow that, no matter what the ordinance says.
The original reason we were looking at the ordinance to start with and trying to determine size was to make sure you didn't have water runoff problems and all those kind of issues. In this specific property, will this cause issues of that nature? I mean, I don't know, and I don't know if we've looked at it specifically or not, but that's the reason for the ordinance to start with. That's why you don't build to the very ends of your property line.
That's some of the concern that code and engineering share.
Right.
Is how do you mitigate that? Because to try to get someone out there and inspect every single one and decide what to do on that, we don't have a procedure in place for accessory buildings to do that.
Okay.
We would hope that the property owners would allow for some drainage to a spot, to their street or to a drainage area, as opposed to letting it go under their neighbor's property, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be a very hard thing to try to regulate. I don't know.
I can see that being a big factor. If we lived on
Yep.
the East Coast or West Coast, Seattle or somewhere, or Carolinas where they get a lot of water, but we don't get that much water out here.
We got 4 inches of rain this morning.
That one time in how many years?
Yeah.
One time in how many years?
Is there a way to approve the ordinance as written and grandfather or offer an exception for the one property?
No.
Okay, all right. That's a
Thank
good
you for
answer. I was
asking
wondering-
that, Mayor. That's the only question I had, and that's a very simple answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do want to make clear that the staff is looking for guidance from you guys now. Whatever you want us, the city, to do, we will certainly do. And as we know, whichever way you go, there's going to be
Yeah.
issues, whether it's with this ordinance or other, some folks may be happy, some folks may be not happy, and so, anyway, so.
Sounds like
we look
just
forward to
about
seeing
every
what you guys
decision.
do.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll move to item number 4, discuss emergency electrical repairs at the wastewater plant. Dun, 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 dun.
All right, I'm back. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, we have had a very interesting last 10 days at the wastewater plant. I'm not sure if all of you have been made aware of the issues that we've had out there, but it's been a very challenging time, and if not for the dedication of several of our employees, we would probably be in a really bad situation with DEQ. But we have several people that work for us that have done an outstanding job, working through the night on 3 occasions during the last 10 days to try to restore power and generators within the city. So this is just a timeline of really what's gone on in the last 10 days. Last Saturday, July the 11th, we lost power. There was a power line that went down across from the wastewater plant. I think just a wind shear pushed the pole over and caused a problem. And the breaker on the pole did not pop. The power came into the plant and destroyed at least 3 OG&E generators. And the information they've given us is that they've spent upwards of $2 million replacing the generators, or the transformers that went down. And of course, our wiring is hooked into those transformers, and it burned those up really bad. Put us onto generator power. So we're on generator power as of after that incident. The next Tuesday, July the 4th, I'm in Mr. Gilbert's office and get a phone call. We lose a generator, and one of our backup generators needs a fuel pump. It's going to take several days to get a fuel pump in. So we get a trailered mobile unit in, and they work all night long to get it installed. So we get the sludge pump back running the next morning around 9 o'clock. The next day, the afternoon, we get the fuel pump and get that generator back and going. And then next Sunday, July the 19th, about 1 o'clock, the Headworks generator fails. And it may have a similar issue. They're diagnosing it. It has a low fuel sensor that's on, their low fuel pressure. They're thinking it might need a fuel pump as well. And so they are diagnosing the problem with that. It took us until the next morning at 3 a.m. to get the mobile generator from Oklahoma City delivered and installed. So again, another night where guys work all night long to get things set up. At this point, the sludge pump generator that has been repaired back on the 16th, it fails again on July the 20th, about 12:30. That was Sunday afternoon. We immediately, or Monday, we immediately call for another mobile unit to be delivered, and it gets here and it's having trouble. And by the time they get it running, it's the next morning, 6:30 a.m. So that's today. We just got that one back going again. So we are running the entire wastewater plant off of 2 borrowed generators because our original generators are needing help. OG&E has since changed out their transformers, but we are waiting on the electrical to rewire into that. Some of that is burned up to the point that the conduit needs to be replaced. I have some pictures I'll show you here too. This is an overview of the wastewater plant, and this is the headworks generator, and this is the sludge pump generator. This is back on OG&E power back here. This runs the UV on the final, and it's back on OG&E power. We do have a generator there, but it does work, but we don't need it because it's back on OG&E. So the two at the sludge, the one at the sludge pump and the headworks are both on a borrowed unit, and we are trying to repair ours, and we're trying to get the wiring done as quick as we can. This is just a picture of one of the mobile units and the size wiring that's coming in off of that generator to keep those pumps running. There's a lot of pumps to pump all that water and pump the needed air into the system. You know, the wastewater system is a biological system that demands oxygen for the organisms in there. This is a picture of the transformer at the sludge pump that was destroyed. This was on fire, had about 6 to 8 foot flames coming out of it. You can see even the concrete pad that's on it has cracked and broken up, so we're going to have to replace that pad before the new one goes back on. You can see the fire damage from around it, and just a feet away from it, that is the generator at the sludge pump, that big yellow, that's how big that generator is. It's probably a 12-cylinder diesel engine. This is a picture of the inside of the transformer that luckily OG&E owns and not the city of Enid. And the picture on the right is underneath that where the conduit for the electrical goes. That's why they're going to have to dig out some of that and replace the conduit so that we don't tear up brand new wire trying to put it in a jagged conduit. So here's our repair schedule. They've already pulled the wire at the headworks, and it should be installed. They're telling us by the end of the day tomorrow. They do not have the wiring in. They're supposed to have it tomorrow and be able to pull that wire at the headworks and get that installed. At the sludge pump, that's the pictures that you saw where the conduit's all torn up. They've pulled the wiring, the concrete pad, and all the conduit repairs. They're hoping they can get that done by this Friday. So our city staff is going to pour new concrete pad, and OG&E will be setting their transformer in after we make all those repairs, so we won't be able to truly wire in until OG&E can come back and reset their transformer. On this agenda item that you'll see tonight, there's also a repair for low lift repairs. That is at the old wastewater plant, and that was really a separate incident, but the same company coming in is the expert on doing these repairs, so they will be pulling wires on that. We have a transformer inspection at the old plant tomorrow to make sure that transformer is okay. That was a separate event where we have a clarifier that we're demolishing, and the contractor that we selected to do the demolition hit a 480-volt buried power line with a dozer, and luckily no one was hurt, but it did some electrical damage at the old plant and tore a few things up. Luckily, we don't have very many things running at the old plant, but one of the things we do is the low lift station, and we do have our own generator running that right now as needed when we need to pump that in. So that is what's going on with the electrical repairs. So tonight, what you'll see, item 5.3 is considering adding $250,000 to the Sanitary Sewer Capital Improvement Fund. You'll notice that is more than the electrical quote, but consider we need to pay for a lot of diesel. We need to pay for these rental generators. We have other repairs on the generators themselves that need to be done. So hopefully this $250,000 will capture all of those items. This will reduce the amount that we can do in this project unless we reallocate funds towards the end of the year. So that is what's going on with item 5.3. Item 9.3 tonight is awarding Shawver and Son the $155,000 to make the electrical repairs. I think Mr. Gilbert has sent you guys some information on that, but they've already pulled the wire. They have not installed any new wire yet, but we are needing some action to take place so that they can complete the job tonight. So hopefully that is a good brief of what has gone on in the last 10 days at the wastewater plant, and I would entertain any questions that you might have.
How many guys were involved, or how many folks were involved, not all guys, but how many folks were involved in this incident from beginning till now?
City working?
Yeah.
Getting it back.
We have had, of course, the Stover crew has helped, but we also have our utility maintenance guys, and really the heavy weightlifters have come from technical services.
Okay.
Frank Sweet is a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to generators in this particular plant, and our electrician, Danny. Those two guys have been the ones primarily doing the heavy lifting overnight, working the late hours, and we brought in our landfill heavy equipment mechanic. He's familiar with a lot of diesel engines like these generators are, and he's helped them in the last few days as well. So really, it's really been 2 or 3 people, and in the cooperation of our public works director and the tech services manager have really aided us from averting disaster, so.
Well, we'll talk a little more offline. I just want to make sure that they get some recognition for stepping up. Thank you.
Yep.
So do we think then that we're going to have the generators fixed with the fuel pumps and the inspectors that are coming in? Was that a transformer inspector or a generator inspector?
So the inspection that I had on there, that is for the old wastewater plant. When the that inspection doesn't have anything to do with the lightning storm that caused the problems at the new plant. It has to do with the dozer that hit the low line at the old plant. Those generators were not on fire, but they had smoke in them. The fire department was called. We think the smoke in those generator boxes was conduit, where it was trying to ground out somewhere and there was smoke coming into it basically just through conduit. So they're testing those transformers, which are owned by us, tomorrow to find out if those transformers are good or if we need to replace the transformer at the old wastewater plant.
Ultimately, we're trying to get all the power restored through OG&E, and the generators are usually standby items for times like this, but we got to fix some of those too. So I don't know if we answered your exact question.
Well, one more thing I'll add, just for clarification. So we built this brand-new wastewater plant, and all of the action happens there, but we still utilize the belt press at the old wastewater plant. And so we're sending our solids back to the old wastewater plant, and that's where they're being pressed and put into solid enough form where they can be transported to the landfill. So that's why it's still critical we have power at the old plant, because that is still a final thing. We have some digesters and a belt press that's still running at the old plant. So I don't know if that helps answer a question that you might have had.
Does the city have any insurance that covers any of this?
We do have OMAG insurance. I don't know if this will be covered under a claim or not. We can certainly
I mean, a
talk to the
lightning strike
insurance
sounds
about a
like.
claim.
Your city clerk may have a comment. I know that she is working on that.
I did submit that for a claim for that, and we're just waiting to hear back what, it sounds like at least a portion of it will be reimbursed.
Okay,
So we're just trying to find out how much.
all right, good, thank you.
Any further question?
All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn and reconvene at 6:30.